Good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is Danielle Sharman, and I am a farm policy analyst with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. I am coordinating the Cultivating Local project alongside my colleague, Joanne Fuller, who is the projects and training coordinator here at OFA. A few housekeeping items. Please keep yourself on mute as this is a meeting style workshop. We will ensure there are lots of opportunities for questions. This workshop will be recorded and will be available on OFA's Cultivating Local webpage. We also ask that you kindly keep your video off to keep the bandwidth lower for our attendees with limited connectivity. So good morning and welcome to our third workshop in the Ontario Federation of Agriculture's Cultivating Local series. OFA has been a long-standing supporter of our members who are eagerly diversifying into new products, new market channels, and finding innovative ways to get their agricultural products to Ontarians looking for fresh local food, flowers, textiles, and so much more. Over 30 commodity and agricultural organizations are members of OFA, and we are grateful to have their support on this project, alongside many community and economic development organizations that have helped to bring this project to life. There are so many opportunities in the Ontario marketplace, whether you are a new farmer, the next generation of a farm family, an established farmer, a creative food or beverage entrepreneur, or you work closely with agri-food clients to make their business dreams a reality. We are thrilled you are joining us to learn more. With so many avenues to get agriculture and food products to Ontarians, we hope this workshop series will enable you to consider which opportunities best fit your business and your products, and learn some tips and tricks for the many innovative farmers, food, and beverage businesses that have taken the leap to sell direct to consumer. Ontario's agriculture, food, and beverage sector is ripe for growth, already generating over $50 billion in GDP annually and employing over 870,000 Ontarians. We produce over 200 commodities here in the province, and we know that number will continue to grow as we discover new varieties, new markets, and new opportunities to cultivate local. OFA is thrilled to be running this workshop series alongside our partners. We hope you learn a lot today, and please join us for the 6 more workshops to come. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Danielle. To kick things off this morning, we're going to be using Slido so we can learn a little bit more about yourself and who's joining this morning. So Jessica, my colleague, has pasted a link in the chat. You can click on the Slido link there and it should take you right to the polling page. Or you can scan the QR code at the top left corner of the presentation screen, which should also take you right to the polling page. So give everyone a moment to do that. And then you can go ahead and let us know where you're joining from today. Excellent. Lots of folks from Eastern Ontario today. Awesome. Great representation. Looks like we have people from across the province today and even a couple folks from outside of Ontario. So that's good to see. Wonderful. I see about 24 of you have participated. I'll give everyone a moment just to make their way to Slido. Awesome. Good representation. Lots of folks from the east, as well as the north and the south, and then an equal split between central and western Ontario as well. So that's great. Okay. So next, I want to learn a little bit more about where you're at in your journey with selling into farmers markets. So a couple questions here. If you're not established yet and you're really just starting your research today or within the last little bit, maybe you're in the early days of selling at farmers markets, you've just started or you're about to start. Maybe you've been selling into farmers markets for a while, or maybe you're just here to learn a little bit more about it, either for your farm for your colleagues, or maybe you represent other farmers and you're looking to support them on their farmers market journey. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. And for those of you who've just joined, we're using Slido today throughout the workshop. So you can scan the QR code there in the corner of your screen with your phone, or you can follow the link that's pasted in the chat. That should take you right to the Slido webpage. Great. It looks like we have lots of folks on the line who've been selling into farmers markets for a while. So glad to see some expertise here that we can share with each other today. And then a good split of folks who aren't established yet, but are just starting their research. And then those who are really here just to learn more about it. So that's really great. Nice. Thank you, everyone. Next, I want to learn a little bit more about some of the challenges or hurdles maybe that you've encountered while selling into farmers markets. We have a lot of folks on the line here today who have been selling into farmers markets for a while or who have just started. So I want to learn a little bit more about maybe some of your challenges, and maybe we can address some of these during our conversations today. We've got a great lineup of speakers on the line today. And so it'd be great we can tap into some of those challenges and maybe answer some questions that you might have today. So go ahead, tell us about some of those challenges. Couple words or less. Knowing what labeling to use or what is required. Great answer. As a market manager, it's difficult to find enough farmers to meet the 50% requirements. Great comment. I think we have folks on the line today who can help with that. Time constraints, different requirements at different farmers markets. Yep, great point if you're selling into multiple markets. Balancing customer interactions with actually selling products. That's a really great point. And how to share your time between that customer service aspect and then ensuring you're making sales. How to know how much to bring, supply and demand. Yes, that's a great comment. And again, I think we have some expertise on the line to help us with that today. Vastly different application deadlines means having to confirm attendance at one market before you even hear back from another. Great point. Challenges with public health to make and sell food at the market. Yes, great point. We've certainly heard that public health piece can be a challenge. I'm new to the industry, starting up an organic orchard, having that consistent product to sell. The packaging is expensive and plastic is being banned. So a couple of different challenges touched on there. Knowing if there are other vendors with the same products, that's a really great point. So understanding who else is selling at the markets that you're interested in and knowing where you can kind of carve out your space there. Red tape and inconsistency within public health. It's a great point there. I see a couple people are typing, so we'll give them just a moment here. Where to market my product to increase my customer base. Great point. A couple of different comments on marketing today. Making sure you're aligned with health department requirements, finding time to work in a commercial kitchen, raw material costs, time constraints, all really great points there. Okay, this is great. So thank you everyone for sharing some of those challenges. We'll keep these and try to touch on them throughout the conversations today. We will also be using the Slido for questions and answers today as well. So you should see on your phone or your browser, depending on where you've joined from, there's a Q&A tab on the top left of your Slido screen. To ask questions during our panel sessions, you can click on that Q&A tab and enter your questions. You can enter your questions anonymously, or you can enter your name if you wish. Feel free to monitor the Q&A area, even if you don't have specific questions. You can like questions, which will raise them to the top of the priority list, and then we will do our absolute best to get to those questions today. And if you have any troubles, please reach out to us in the chat. So keep that browser or phone tab open. We'll use that today to get to some of those questions and answers. Great. Now that we've learned a little bit more about everyone on the line this morning, I'm really pleased to kick things off with our first panel session this morning. So please join me in welcoming our first group of panelists who are going to share their perspectives on key considerations for selling into farmers markets. So first, Rachel MacArthur is a graduate from the University of Guelph and Toronto Metropolitan University with degrees in biological sciences and public health and safety. In 2009, she was hired with the Durham Region Health Department as a public health inspector and has worked in various program areas since. Since 2020, she's worked as the food safety and legal senior public health inspector. Rachel has also been the professional development counselor on the Canadian Institute of Public Health Inspectors, Ontario branch executive for the last 10 years. James Yang is the partner success specialist at Duo by Cooperators. His journey in insurance began in 2019 when he started working at Cooperators, and in April 2023, he began working at Duo. James has experience working with various partners, such as property managers, event organizers, and venue owners. His primary responsibility is ensuring partners have everything they need to help their clients manage their risk and get insurance. And Catherine Clark is the Executive Director of Farmers Markets of Ontario, representing 180 farmers markets. She's responsible to deliver and implement several partner programs, such as a robust group insurance program for members, operating and managing 2 My Market verified farmers markets in the GTA. She carries out the delivery of the MyPick verified local farmer program and is also surrounded by qualified experts in the field of communications, marketing, and social media within her organization. She's a board member of the Ontario Fruit and Veg Convention and the treasurer for the Horticultural Crops Ontario, as well as a board member with the Canadian Farmers Market Association. Catherine owned a small farm in Northern Ontario and now resides in Brighton. So some great bios there. And thank you, Catherine, James, and Rachel for joining us today. So to start things off, Rachel, could you tell us a little bit more about your role and the work that you do to support food safety at farmers markets in Durham region?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today, and it's great to see so many people tuning in. So as already been stated, I've been the Food Safety Senior Public Health Inspector at Durham Region for almost 5 years now. So a little bit about my role as a Senior Public Health Inspector. I support staff with food safety questions, develop and implement policies and procedures, and I create resources for the public, to name a few things. During my talk today, I'll be speaking from a Durham Region Health Department perspective. So it's important that you understand that each Board of Health throughout the province does run their farmers market program a little differently. But the overall goal across the province is still the same, which is to ensure that the market is free from health hazards. Public health inspectors in Ontario are responsible for enforcing the Health Protection and Promotion Act and the regulations that fall under the Act. The food safety regulation that we enforce is called Ontario Regulation 493, which is the food premises regulation. This regulation exempts some farmers markets from compliance under the regulation, but it does not exempt the farmers market and its vendors from the Health Protection and Promotion Act. So prior to each season, farmers market coordinators must notify the health department of their intent to operate a farmers market each year. As well, each food vendor must submit a vendor application to the health department, which normally outlines what kind of foods that you will be selling that year at the farmers market. Non-food vendors do not need to submit an application, but it's important that the coordinator includes them on their list of vendors so a public health inspector can assess the market properly. So in Durham Region, coordinators must submit an application at least 45 days prior to the market opening, and vendors at least 30 days. This timeline will vary depending on the health unit where your market is located. Farmers markets across the province must be inspected a minimum of once per year. During our inspection, we are looking for health hazards, which is basically anything that has or is likely to have an adverse effect on the health of any person. At a farmer's market, a health hazard could be hazardous foods, so such as dairy or meats, being stored between 4 degrees and 60 degrees Celsius, or food coming from an unapproved source, which may be uninspected meat or processed foods coming from an uninspected kitchen. The following foods are not allowed to be sold at farmers markets, which is something that we would follow up on during our inspection. So ungraded eggs, these are only allowed to be sold farm gate in Ontario. meat products that are not provincially or federally inspected, unpasteurized milk, foods being prepared from an uninspected facility, so this could include home canned products as well, and other foods that may be considered a health hazard by your local public health unit. So there's lots of new foods out there that we're seeing, so that's not the be all and end all list as we risk assess everything when we're out and about. So once you process your farm product, for example, you take your apples and then you make them into an apple pie, or your meat and you're making meat pies, you must prepare the processed food item in an inspected kitchen. Food being sold from an uninspected kitchen would be considered a health hazard. And now I'm going to pass it on to the next panelist.
Thank you, Rachel. Great overview of the work that you're doing in Durham region, so thank you. James, can you give us an overview of how Duo works with farmers market vendors to address their insurance needs and support their businesses?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Krista. Hi, everyone. But yeah, excuse me. But yeah, as Krista said, from the partnerships team, and what we do in Duo is more so just mitigating risk and just trying to make sure all the vendors are covered on that side of things. I work really closely with Catherine. If I don't know if most of you know Catherine, but she's from FMO, and she'll be speaking next. But usually, the two key factors that I would say vendors should consider when deciding whether to become a farmers market vendor is definitely, or first of all, why markets should require vendor insurance on this side of things is definitely protecting your market. Just being added as an additional insured on your vendor's policy affords your markets protection. Also, the second thing is definitely protect your vendors. In event of an accident, we'll cover the cost of things like, the property damage or a liability claim filed against the vendor. And that's kind of the general overview of what we do at Duo to help vendors stay safe and mitigate risks. And what do we cover is mostly just like vendor liability, which basically means like if vendor liability should cover vendors if anything like accidental were to happen, like an injury, like somebody trips and falls, like a hazard, stuff like that on anybody else's booth or property during the event. Anything like tenants' legal liability, which is meaning like the vendors that they are covered for any damages caused by any of the rented premises, basically your booth. Any medical payments, we will cover for that as well, or any like product completed operations, which is basically designed to protect vendors for customer lawsuits aligning property damages or injury. But yeah.
Great. Thank you, James.
Thanks.
And last but not least, Catherine, as the Executive Director of Farmers Markets of Ontario, can you share some insights into how your organization supports farmers markets and specifically the vendors, particularly when it comes to that risk management and operational success?
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Farmers Markets Ontario represents about 180 farmers markets. It's a membership-based organization. We have an insurance program, which is the group insurance program, which is different than Duo. We cover the actual market itself and its vendors. Protecting the shopper from any incidents. It also protects any directors or board members or volunteers during the time the market is actually operating. The relationship between Farmers Markets Ontario's group policy and Duo's insurance, which was developed with Duo about 4 years ago, was for the individual, which is not part of the group insurance for specifically farmers markets that are not insured with FMO. So that was an issue that came up over the several years, that the individual had to go to a particular broker to be covered at other events. And there are more landlords and special events and other farmers markets, landowners requiring insurance more and more now. So that relationship between the individual and the group insurance and the partnership with Duo has been very helpful. The risk management, we on our website have two sections on food safety guidelines and also the risk management side of things. This is information that is available to anyone who's looking to become a member as a vendor or a member as a farmer's market. So it's been quite successful, and we are the resource that is available by phone and also by email, and vendors do contact us individually to making sure that they are protected when they decide to go to a farmer's market or special events.
That's great. Thank you, Catherine. And lots of really great resources out of FMO as well, which we'll touch on later today. So I want to start things off with a question here around, what are one or two key factors a farmer should consider when deciding whether to become a vendor at a farmer's market? So maybe, James, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but definitely just protection for the market and the individual vendor. So being added on as an additional insured on the confirmation of insurance once you purchase an insurance policy is very key. You never know what's going to happen. It's always just in case. And that peace of mind is always great to just have in the back of your head. Sometimes, little things could happen. Something like I said earlier, like a trip or somebody injures themselves. We find that typically those are the most common claims, and just protection overall to help mitigate your risk for yourself, not only for yourself but also for your market as well. And the partnership that we have with Duo, and I saw a question in the chat, like what is a typical cost? It depends. Usually a day, if you were to just buy a day, it's usually around like, let's say $12, $13, around $15. But as you we offer more packages with FMO and other farmers markets as well that reduces the cost as well, the more you kind of purchase per day. But yeah, I would just say overall, just definitely mitigating risk, protecting your market and protecting yourself as a vendor.
Thanks, James. And to clarify, that price you mentioned, that's per day per market that you're selling into, right?
Yeah, I would say on average per day, it's about $15 for one day. But like with the partnership we have with FMO, the more days you purchase, the cheaper it will be.
Great, thank you. And staying on that theme with, one or two key factors that you should consider when deciding whether to sell into a farmer's market. Rachel, I'll go to you next, and then we'll touch on your answer as well, Catherine.
I think that really the only thing from a public health perspective is you would have to consider what type of food you're going to be selling. So if you're just selling whole produce, then you're going to have minimal contact with public health. We might stop by and say hi at your booth. It will be very quick. But if you want to start processing your produce or your meats or whatever it may be and create processed food products at that point, or you're going to be doing food handling on site, you're going to have more interaction with a public health inspector, and there are going to be additional requirements that you'll have to do. So that will be maybe a little bit lengthier of an inspection. So those are things you'd have to consider before becoming a vendor and what type of foods you want to sell.
Thank you. Great points. And Catherine?
The relationship between public health and farmers markets Ontario is very close. We deliver information to our members typically on an annual basis early on when renewals occur in March, when markets are starting up again. And the importance of the markets getting their vendors list prepared, contacting their local public health, and making sure that they can move forward. Sometimes it's difficult to get back. It's a busy time for everyone, but their commitment to submit their lists as a farmer's market to making sure they're ready to go with the vendors. Individual vendors who typically will be encouraged to contact, and if the market manager doesn't know, we'll send them directly to public health. But sometimes I will get calls from vendors wanting to go to farmers markets, and I say the first thing you have to do is contact your public health, and they will assess your situation, whether it's hazardous, not hazardous, and making sure that you're following the proper protocols for your product being sold at the farmers markets. Our role is a resource for some markets as well. Managers are always, our members are encouraged to make sure that it's a good relationship between the market and and public health, because things change, and any questions, they're there to help, and making sure that food is safe when it's being sold to consumers. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, thank you. Great points. And maybe I'm actually going to turn to one of the audience questions because it's kind of along these lines of our conversation right now. So this is maybe for Rachel or Catherine as well. I have a question here. For products that meet Ontario Regulation 119-11, does the manufacturing or packaging have to be performed in a public health inspected kitchen? So I don't know if either of you want to help answer that question from the audience.
So I think, is it the question about like whole produce? Because we don't enforce that regulation, but my understanding is that is regarding whole produce, pure honey, and pure maple syrup products. And if that's the case, and those products are staying as is in the whole state, the pure form, they would be exempt from us. It would have nothing to do with us. But once you take that produce and you're gonna, bake it or make soups with it, or you're going to take your honey, it's no longer pure, and you're making honey biscuits and honey nuts and things like that, that's when you'd want to reach out to your local public health unit to see if your kitchen requires inspection. There's other laws and regulations too. For example, if you're going to be federally licensed, then you might be exempt from our inspection as well. So that would be with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So there's a variety of different things, but if you're going to start preparing or processing those items, it's always a good idea to reach out to your local public health unit to see if you need an inspection.
Great, thank you. And some confirmation in the chat here that it is pure honey and maple syrup. So thank you. That's a great question and great answer. So thank you for that. Great. And another question here, what about bread? Does that need to be prepared in an inspected kitchen? Would that kind of qualify as that value added product?
So yes, so you could, I was going to touch on it later, but most municipalities and health units, because health units, there's a health unit, and then there's, one health unit might have 7 or 8 municipalities with it, which I know is even probably more challenging for some people out there trying to sell food. Most health units and municipalities allow home-based businesses. And so it's as easy as contacting your local health unit and your municipality to see if they allow them. And then you can get your kitchen certified quite easily, especially if it is breads, because there is an exemption in a regulation now that exempts low-risk food products. So I think there were some comments about challenges with red tape. And so that's to remove some of the red tape to make it easier in your home to prepare low-risk food products, which bread would be. So if you're just preparing bread, to get your kitchen certified at home would be quite easy to do. Or another alternative is renting a commercial kitchen. That takes obviously some money out of your pocket, which isn't ideal. It would, coordinating all that might be more of a challenge, but there are options out there to have an inspected kitchen that you could use.
Great, thank you. Excellent. So I want to ask each of our panelists about risks and risk factors. So we've touched on several already, but from each of your perspectives, what are the top 2 risks that farmers market vendors should be keeping in mind, and what proactive steps can they take to help mitigate those risks? So maybe Catherine, I'll start with you on this one.
Making sure that their canopies are secure is one of the biggest hurdles, I think, that comes up. If there's a storm that whips around very quickly and the canopy has, knocked someone down, there's a risk of injury, or a vehicle or child or anyone. So that's the biggest hurdle, is to try to tie down all your canopies down to a level of safety. Sometimes accidents do happen, but it is common practice, and that markets should be telling their vendors, making sure that they secure their canopies, because that is the biggest risk, we believe. Also, a risk to the vendor is keeping your cash close to yourself, making sure that no one's behind you trying to steal, cash. Your cash box must be, secured and safe, making sure that's there. But the injury of a shopper is really the most important thing that you want to prevent. And obviously the food products that you're selling, if something is spoiled, it doesn't mean you get to be sued for that. I mean, you just get your product replaced. But food poisoning, but that's a public health issue and so on. And that would be something that all foods that have hazardous status, it certainly gets approved by public health, and making sure, and the inspections of the market, once in the season, making sure, or individually with the individual vendor who has the product, to have that good relationship with the inspector.
Thank you. And yeah, since we're kind of on the topic of the market participants themselves as well, maybe James, I'll go to you next. What in your mind are the top two risks that vendors should keep in mind? And then what are those proactive steps that they can help take to mitigate risk on their end?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Krista. I would say the number one, I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again because it's very important. But just being mindful of tripping hazards around your market stand. Tripping hazards, like, includes like cords, containers, pop-up signs, canopy stakes or guy lines, ground equipment like those, or other stand equipments. Just being a tripping hazard, it does make a like sometimes market attendees, they can accidentally encounter it, or not even realize it's there. So just making sure, like as a vendor, you just do a quick survey around your market stand, and just ensuring that all tripping hazards are well out of the way of any shoppers, of their children as well, before the market opens to the public. That's the number one. From our side, from the insurance side, we do see a lot of claims happen on that side, so you just want to make sure just to be proactive on that end, just keeping it safe. Also, the second thing I would say is definitely keep an eye on like falling hazards. If your event is outdoor, any falling hazards can become particularly dangerous in a weather change. In this situation, you want to make sure your canopy or stand is secured on the ground, and that any shelving in your stand cannot be pulled down or knocked over. Before the event starts, do a quick wind test at your market stand to ensure everything is properly secured and fastened. And I'll just throw in a third one here, just because we're on the topic, and I think Rachel is next. But yeah, like just following general food safety practices definitely is very key, and I'm sure Rachel is going to speak to that next.
Great, thanks, James. Yeah, Rachel, over to you.
Yeah, so as both James and Catherine have kind of touched on, I'd say the biggest risk from our perspective is that if you're selling a food that is considered a health hazard, so like I said, that could be temperature abused hazardous food, it could be uninspected meat products. So what could happen is either your food could be discarded by the local public health unit, or we could tell you that you can't sell at the farmers market any longer. But I mean, this is easily mitigated by just making sure that your application is very thorough and submitted on time to the health department, because the public health inspector will review and approve that application, and they'll reach out to you to make sure that all the food safety, you're practicing all a good food safety guidelines here, and that your food won't be a health hazard at the event. This is going to also help your inspection go much more smoothly. So, if we say you have to have coolers with ice, making sure that your product's on in a cooler with adequate ice. So sometimes we'll see like one ice pack and a full cooler. That's not going to keep the stuff at the top very cold. So, making sure ice is all around your hazardous food product. and just keeping open communication with the health department. We're one of the government agencies that doesn't charge at all. So call up your local public health unit and your health inspector will be more than happy to talk and help you with any food safety guidance you may need. And then the other health hazard, which I think Catherine was talking about, is that if it is a health hazard, it may lead to a foodborne illness. And that's what we're trying to make sure doesn't happen. And so, like I said, if you're selling uninspected meat, it could be contaminated with parasites or mad cow disease. Or another one that we're seeing a lot is not just at farmers markets, but in our inspected food premises as well, is everyone's wanting to do canning again. And I don't think a lot of people realize the risks associated with canning. And so if you improperly can, it could lead to botulism. And there has been recalls for products that may contain botulism as they weren't canned properly. I think actually at the end of last year, there was one that went out throughout the recall list. And so you want to make sure you touch base with your health unit on how to properly can. So this is where health units might have different guidelines. Here in Durham, we have a great resource on our food safety website. And basically it outlines you need to use some sort of scientifically tested recipe, which we call a validated recipe. And what that means is that the recipe's been tested, and if you follow it exactly as is, it will produce a safe end product. Or you may have to get your, like if it's a family recipe, you might have to get that lab tested for pH and water activity, because the crucial thing with home canning is that the pH is low enough so that Clostridium botulinum is the bacteria that could cause illness, doesn't grow in that home canned good. So those would be the biggest risks from our perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Lots of great questions in the Slido here related to public health too. Maybe before we transition, a lot of discussion around some of those further value added products. So what advice would you have for a farmer who might be reaching out to public health for the first time? Thinking about starting to sell into farmers markets with that type of product. Where should they begin, and maybe when should they begin as well?
So you should always begin, obviously, the earlier you start in the season, the better. So, it's never too early at public health. Like there's still markets that happen. We have winter markets that happen here now. I think that we're seeing them, they're not just seasonally now, they're running, or they're kind of different sort of farmers markets. So they might go for 4 weeks in the winter, take a little bit of a break, then come back for the majority of the season. So, I mean, it's never too early to start. So if you reside in Durham, let's say, because that's where I am, you could reach out to us anytime to provide guidance on, I want to be a vendor at the spring, summer farmers market next year. What do I need to do? These are the things I want to sell. These are the things I'm looking at making. And then our public health inspector will guide you down that golden path. So let's say you do want to start turning your produce into some sort of processed food item, then that gives us ample time to come inspect your home kitchen. And let's say you do need to make a small tweak to get your kitchen certified. That gives you ample time before the season starts to do that, and then get your nice green sign. So the earlier the better. And like I said, just making sure you're very thorough on that application, because if you miss some food items, and this happens not just with farmers markets, to special events, they forget to include all their food items, our health inspector can't assess that food item properly and give you the proper advice. And then there might be more issues the day of the inspection because we didn't know about it. So let's say you start with your application and you forgot one of the products, or you change and you want to add breads to your menu, then just reach out to us again and say, hey, look, I want to add breads to my menu. What do I need to do? And that way, when your inspection happens that year, there'll be less issues. Did I answer the question? Was that all of the question there?
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great answer. Thank you, Rachel. There's never too early of a time to reach out, so that's great. Thank you. And I'm just looking at a couple of the questions in the chat here. So a couple, maybe Rachel, I'll keep picking on you here for a moment. I have one here. I'm a honey vendor. In terms of things like cinnamon honey, would that need a kitchen since I would just be mixing raw ingredients into the honey?
So it's our understanding, we've reached out to OMAFRA and also CFIA on items like this or similar to this. And once you start adding things to that pure honey or that pure maple syrup, it's no longer pure. And so you should reach out to your local public health unit to see if your kitchen needs an inspection, as well as CFIA, because they do have some oversight over honey products. So I would reach out both to federally and to your local public health unit.
Great, thank you. I also have a question here around ungraded eggs. Is that strictly chicken eggs, for example, that would be under the quota system, or is that for any and all eggs? I'm not sure if one of our panelists is able to answer that question this morning.
So I can answer that from, I think, from when I said you can't sell ungraded eggs. So the food premise regulation only refers to that from the domestic hen. So if you're selling other eggs, then you just have to make sure that they're kept refrigerated because they're considered hazardous here in Ontario, and they'd have to be kept below 4 degrees Celsius, and they need to be in clean condition, free of cracks and all of that sort of stuff. So if you want to sell duck eggs, you just need to make sure they're clean, no cracks, and that they're refrigerated.
Thank you. I have another question here from the audience, and maybe for Catherine or James, or maybe both of you. Where does responsibility fall in terms of attending or not attending markets, should dangers arise due to extreme weather? So where that responsibility falls.
I can start off on the insured side of things. So it depends. Like obviously for us as an insurance company, like if you prove it or show kind of like, hey, the event was either canceled or let's say you bought a policy with the partnership with FMO that we have currently. If you buy multiple days, you can just use that day for another day, no problem. But if it was, let's say you only bought one day and it was canceled and things, obviously due to weather conditions, we will give you a refund. That's not a problem. You just have to contact our team. But that's on the insurance side of things.
Farmers Markets Ontario does have we require or we ask markets to develop their protocols. FMO operates 2 markets in Toronto, and each one for theirs, and we have volunteers and so on. And it's a basic protocol that someone's in charge of making sure the weather is okay for that day. In terms of the actual event happening, some markets will say, get in your vehicle, pack up, and so on, because if you're in the GTA, it's 2 hours to get home, and then it's gone. This erratic weather or wind has come in and gone, and the farmer doesn't want to go back home, so they can wait till it blows over, and hopefully shoppers will come back. But we always encourage that markets have and to speak with their vendors and their board and their groups to come up with a plan in case this is foreseen, and what happens, who's responsible to do what prior to the event in terms of making a decision of canceling the market, and or during the onset of something coming, what is the protocol? So that's a policy that should be part of a farmer's market and shared with vendors and anyone who's working at the market.
Great, thank you. Great answers. Okay, a couple of additional questions here from the group. So thanks everyone for posting your questions here. Generally, what goes into certifying a home kitchen? Are there regulations that we can point to today? So Rachel, this one might be for you.
Yep. So if you have a certified home kitchen, you would have to make sure that you align with the food premises regulation. So I'm happy to share some links and resources after that maybe Krista can send out to everyone. We also in Durham have a resource for home-based businesses specifically. So on our food safety website that I can include, there are different requirements. Like I think my example before was the breads being a low-risk food product. So they've taken away some of the red tape. So for example, if you're only doing a low-risk food product, it's just breads and buns and maybe cookies, let's say, meaning that the end product doesn't require refrigeration. There's things like you don't need a designated hand washing sink, but you need a sink to still wash your hands. You don't need to be a certified food handler, but it's still recommended. So there are some things that make it very easy to do those products in your home if you want to prepare moderate to high risk food products. So let's say it's a chicken curry or meat pies. I think the meat pies are quite popular amongst the farmers. Um, you're going to need to then have all the requirements from the food premise reg, which would mean a separate hand washing sink and a 2-compartment sink on top of that, or a commercial dishwasher. So there are a few more things. You would need to be a certified food handler. But it all is case by case. It depends on what you're preparing and making, but I can provide the resources on that. And my best advice would just be to reach out to your local public health unit to kind of ask them what they need. And even, they might ask for a floor plan, or someone might stop by and take a look to see how your kitchen looks.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. And yes, just confirming that after the workshop today, we can follow up with resources shared during the call today. So thank you. Okay, looking at a couple of other questions here. Are there any risks you see with selling forages? So things like different hays for small pets and commodities like grains for birds at a farmer market. So thinking about the pet food space. Is that a public health area, Rachel, or
No,
would
we
that
don't
not?
touch on pet food. So
Okay.
we do have some people that make pet food, and I think we may have had some involvement, but really it's just they had to label it for pet consumption. And then there's no concern that, humans might be eating it from an uninspected kitchen and that sort of thing, but we don't get involved in pet food.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, I want to ask a couple of questions here in the last couple minutes of this panel. So I'm curious, what's one thing farmers might often overlook when preparing to sell at a farmer's market that could help prevent any challenges later? So Catherine, maybe I'll start with you.
In terms of preparation, that's up to the individual vendor to connect with its market manager, finding out which spot he's got, how much space he's allocated, making sure that he brings his proper equipment, enough products to sell for the day. He or she, sorry, will know, if he's a new vendor coming to market and not sure of how much to bring, he will quickly know on the first day whether he's out of product, even baked goods and so on, doesn't matter what kind of product, and it's sold. Foods and fruits and vegetables, prepared foods are basically they sell fairly quickly. Arts and crafts and other things that are part of a farmer's market is not the priority. I hate to say, but it is. Farmers markets is for food producers, fruits and vegetables, honey, maple syrup, and so on. So the consumption of food. So yeah, it is making sure that they bring enough to sell that day and see how it goes. It also depends on the traffic at that particular market. If they're testing, some of the market managers or board will say, well, come for a couple of Saturdays or whatever and test us out and encourage them, because farmers markets are always looking for producers and with fruits and vegetables and the fresh stuff. Certainly in the height of the season. Winter is a little bit different, but yeah, it's I think your panel of Jenny and Alex and Aaron will give the audience a better perspective from their end, because they're very experienced at what to do, what not to do at farmers markets.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Rachel or James, anything you'd like to add to the conversation just about, things that might often be overlooked that farmers could benefit from doing to help prevent any challenges in the long run?
I think one of the things for us, and it's also due to the time that the farmers market happened, is really temperature control. So you're out there and it's very, very hot. It's 30 degrees. So I think I kind of alluded to having one ice pack and a cooler is not going to be satisfactory. And so a lot of people overlook how they're going to maintain their cold foods cold and having a backup if that fails, or having more ice, or, some people bring in the plug-in coolers now, but they haven't been working sometimes, and sometimes I think it's just hard for them to keep up in the heat. So always having a backup plan and how you're going to do that, because we don't want to be out there telling you that you can't sell your food. Like we want you to be successful here, and we want it to go smoothly. And so always having a backup plan when you are selling hazardous foods of how you're going to keep that food cold or keep that food hot above 60.
Thank you. Yeah, great point. And James, anything from your perspective, just some of those maybe commonly overlooked pieces?
Yeah, kind of Rachel kind of touched on it, but definitely, definitely food, I would say is the number one thing that is overlooked. And especially from an insurance side perspective, just make sure you do your due diligence. Just maybe ask like, hey, like, Duo, do you cover this? Our team is like fully digital. So it's very easy to just ask, hey, like a specific scenario, like I'm selling this particular product. It's going to be for this market. We're very quick to answer those emails. Yeah, you could always check out on our website. We also have like a co-branded website with FMO and Duo if you want to check that out as well. But yeah, just for more information about your specific scenario, feel free to just email us or call.
Great. Thank you, James. Seems like a common theme today is reach out early, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So that's great. Excellent. So I have one more question in the chat I want to get to before we move on. There's a question here. Are there any grants or funding programs available to those who intend to breach farmers markets for the first time? So thinking about costs of equipment like POS systems, labeling systems, any temporary shelters, for example. I know later on in the workshop, we will touch on a few funding opportunities that are available to farmers more broadly. But maybe Catherine, are there any funding programs that you're aware of for farmers looking to purchase this type of equipment?
No, not aware of it at all. It's
Okay.
very difficult for anyone to find any available funding, whether it's at a shared cost value or not. It's not like it was maybe years and years ago, but that not that I know of.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, we will touch on a little bit later in terms of who you can reach out to. I know there's some programs with your local community futures corporations and small business enterprise centers as well. So there might be some community specific programming that folks could check out. But yeah, as of this time, maybe not as much from the provincial level. So thank you for that question. All right. Well, this was a really great panel session. So thanks, Rachel, Catherine, and James for this really good discussion today. Lots of great questions and answers, and we'll circulate some of the resources that we touched on today with folks after the workshop. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to hand things back over to Danielle to facilitate our next session with our farmers. So over to you, Danielle.
Great. Thank you so much, Krista, and what a great session. So next, I would like to welcome Jenny, Alex, and Aaron to the floor to talk about their experiences in selling to farmers markets. I'll start off with Alex. So she's a registered dietitian and farmer living and working on her family's fruit and vegetable farm in southwestern Ontario. Her dietetic practice is fairly intertwined with her role as a farmer as they work hand in hand. Specifically, Alex's work is rooted in food, nutrition, and agriculture education and communication. She creates spaces for people to experience how and interact with their food at its source and provide education about how food is grown, how to prepare it, and the nutritional properties it provides. Pick your own fruits and vegetables, on-farm workshops and tours, farmers markets, recipe development and produce home delivery, paired with nutrition tips, recipes, and tips and tricks for food storage and preservation, are just a few of the activities that keep her busy. Thanks so much for joining us, Alex. And next, I'll introduce Jenny. She represents the Thunder Bay Country Market and her farm, Terrymore Farms. Terrymore Farms grows and sells beef and eggs, selling products at a farmer's market, and is a large part of her business. Being at a market is more than selling. It has become a big part of who Jenny is as a farmer. Her motto is, if you are not happy doing what you do, then make a change and move on. And finally, Erin. Erin grew up on her family farm and has been attending farmers markets since they moved there in 1991 when she was 5 years old. Their farm has since expanded to participate in 6 farmers markets each week. In addition to offering on-farm sales, pick-your-own activities, and festivals, she loves the sense of community that farmers markets provide, along with the incredible locally produced items they bring people from near and far, creating a well-rounded local shopping experience. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her partner and 2-year-old daughter, and she also loves traveling and always seems to find a new farmers market to explore, no matter where she is in the world. So thank you to the 3 of you for joining us today. And we'll kick things right off here. So Jenny, if you could get started for us, can you please tell us a bit about the Thunder Bay Country Market? County Market. Country Market?
It is Country Market.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Country Market.
So Thunder Bay Country Market started in 1996 with 8 investors. These people had a vision. They wanted to expand a current market to include more than just farmers. They wanted to include other vendors within that 49% to retain their farmer market status. So that was seasonal only from May to Thanksgiving, and it was only 1 day a week. Every Saturday they would meet from 8 till 1, and they had a total of 20 to 25 vendors. In the early 2000s, the market grew quite rapidly, and we ended up in another rented space. This time we had a heated building, so we could move to be a year-round market. And then very early on after that, we added a second market day. So that carried on for a number of years. And then we were able to add a second level to our market. So that increased our market vendor numbers quite significantly again. So we grew to be close to 100 vendors, including our seasonal outdoor farmers. COVID hit us, and it absolutely knocked the wind out of our sails. So we have recovered. We became quite creative, and we kept our market going. It dropped quite a bit in vendor size, but we kept it going. And we currently have about 60 vendors, which includes 6 seasonal vendors that are part of the time outdoors, part of the time indoors. So that's a little overview of who we are as a market.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jenny. And Alex, can you share with us an overview of Thames River Melons and all that it has to offer?
Thanks for having me. So Thames River Melons is my family's fruit and vegetable farm. We're located in southwestern Ontario, just outside of a little town called Innerkip. The farm started in the early 80s. We just had 1 acre of melons at that time. And now we've expanded to over 500 acres of fruits and vegetables. We have a line of preserves, baked goods, honey, and a small herd of Black Angus beef. I work on the farm in a wide range of roles, but I manage most of our retail sales, and then with a special focus on our on-farm market and pick your own and farmers markets. I'm also a registered dietitian, like Danielle mentioned, so that's a big part of what I do too. We sell our goods at a variety of outlets, both retail and wholesale. On the wholesale side of things, it's with, a few grocery stores, some larger chains, restaurants. And then on the retail, we sell on-farm. We offer home delivery. We have some pop-up markets. And then, of course, the main reason we're here today, off-site farmers markets. We go to farmers markets from May through December each season, kind of all across the 401 corridor between London, Stratford area, and the GTA. And for us, something we're really proud of is we only sell things that we kind of grow, make, or bake ourselves. So we're not buying and selling anything. And we go to about 20 markets each week. So yeah, that's Thames River Melons.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Alex. And Erin, I know you've got your 2-year-old home with you today, and I'm
and she's just found her advent calendar and is like, I want to open all of them right now. But that's okay.
Well, if you have a moment, we'd love if you could share how the family started the farm business and how it has evolved over time.
Sure, yeah. So, my parents started farming a bit later in life. Oh my gosh, she's gonna sing Ring Around the Rosie now. She's been quiet for the last hour. And yeah, they started in 1991. They were a little bit older, so they were in their 40s when they started farming. Um, and yeah, they were kind of a one man show. My dad really was. My mom worked off the farm. She was a nurse. My dad did everything from growing to selling, like planting, harvesting, the whole shebang, marketing. Like he wore all the hats. Still don't really understand how he had the ability to do that. But he did, and thankfully he did. My brother and I joined in when we were sort of early teens. I mean, we were always around, but helping like my daughter. But we really started helping when we were teenagers. And yeah, I see it in the green one too. Okay, you open it. And yeah, and then my brother really decided he wanted to be a part of the farm. I went to university, moved away from the farm, lived in Europe for a while, and it wasn't until I was away that I really realized how much I missed the farm. So I came back in 2009, and in 2010, we took over, my brother and I started the process of taking over the farm. We bought a second farm in 2010. And so we've expanded from one farm with 99 acres to two farms with 250 acres in production or thereabouts. And from one farmer's market to six farmers markets. And sort of my dad on his own to up to around 50 staff in the summer and 5 year-round full-time staff. So a lot of big changes from selling at one market and on a picnic table in our front yard to on farm stores and pick your own and festivals and six markets. So yeah, lots of things to keep us busy.
Wow, yes, that's a lot of growth and yeah, a lot of adjustment I'm sure you've had to make over time to accommodate that. Thank you so much. So now I'll kind of open it up to a bit of a panel discussion here. So curious what drew each of you to participate in farmers markets and what aspect of the experience keeps bringing you back. So I'll go back to Jenny here for this one to kick us off.
So for us, on our farm, we did a number of things from dairy farming to sheep farming, and then always had chickens along the way. And then we brought in the beef. So going to the farmers market, it really provided us an opportunity to sell our product locally. We wanted to stay small enough to keep it local, but we also want to make enough to be able to support our own farm. And so that is the number one reason. Our market is a make it, bake it, grow it market, so we fit in with that perfectly. And yeah, like the loyalty of our customers is just amazing. So that keeps us coming back all the time, with an ever-growing customer base. And we love the way of life. To us, doing this on the farm at the market, it's a way of life. It's not just a job for us. So we'll leave it at that just for now.
Erin, did you want to jump back in?
Sure, yeah. So for us, really like the having the ability to not be able to do everything and be part of that community where we're not necessarily like really great at growing carrots, but we grow really great sweet corn, and we can come together and combine forces and provide that well-rounded, more like grocery store experience for our customers. So yeah, and just have that sense of community where we're going to markets, and we're really just a part of that bigger community of locally grown and produced items.
Yeah, so we've attended farmers markets since the very beginning. We started off in the early 80s. We would just pile a pickup truck full of melons head out and open the tailgate and start selling. And since then, we've added some other produce items, so we've kind of streamlined our process a bit. But we've always loved markets. We love people coming to the farm, but we recognize that that's not always possible or accessible for everybody. So meeting in the middle in an urban center often is a great way to kind of bridge that urban rural gap, meet people where they're at, and kind of bring a bit of the farm to them. And definitely, like Erin and Jenny said, partnering with other great vendors, it's such a great experience for customers. And we just really appreciate the opportunity to, gather in a communal space, chat with customers about where their produce comes from, kind of provide a bit of education about how it was grown, how to store it and use it at home, discuss recipe ideas. Like, there's a lot of conversation that goes on. And we talk a lot about, if a customer just wanted to buy a tomato, they could go to the grocery store and get a tomato anytime. But the reason they're coming to a farmer's market is they want a tomato from a farmer. So they want a little bit more than just the produce itself or just the items they're buying. They want the whole experience. So that's really what we love about markets.
Great. And I'll actually flip one more back to you about, on the opposite side, what's the biggest hurdle that you faced when selling at farmers markets, and what strategies or support systems have helped you to overcome that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. There's kind of two main challenges. One is, for us, we attend so many market locations that it's a lot of logistics in terms of staffing and vehicles and consistent pricing and messaging. So we really have worked hard to train and retain our staff. And we have kind of a system in place now in terms of like all the supplies we need, how to record our sales, how to make sure we have, like they talked about earlier, the weights for our canopies and hand wash stations. So having like lists and packing kind of systems has been really helpful. And then one other quick challenge I find is sometimes there's some, comparison to other outlets of food, or resistance with pricing, and just kind of a lack of education or understanding. So that's when we try to really provide a little bit of education and provide an experience that is above and beyond other kind of retail outlets. And, people don't really give you recipe ideas at the grocery store, but we do, and other vendors do. So yeah, always challenges, but lots of creative ways to overcome them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And Jenny, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate here in Thunder Bay that we don't have a lot of competition with other markets. So we can go to our market, leave all of our stuff there, have it nicely set up, and never have to take it down. So our hurdles end up being slightly different. COVID was one of our biggest hurdles because we were going along really nicely, and then COVID hit and we couldn't have a market anymore. So we had to become creative. We had to turn that hurdle into an opportunity. So we were able to stream our sales so that customers could come to the door, we could deliver their stuff out to them. And we as vendors were able to keep going. And another thing, which is a bit of a hurdle, but also we turn it into an opportunity. People love to come to your booth and talk. They want to hear your story. They want to know how you grew that animal. Are your chickens happy? You've made some product here. How did you do it? They want to hear that whole story. And if you don't have two staff on, it's hard to balance between telling your story and keeping the other customers in line, moving along quite slow, like quite quickly. So it's a balance, the selling and keeping the balance. But like I say, we all have little hurdles, but for the most part, we always try to turn those hurdles, both us as a farm and our market, turn the hurdles into an opportunity. How can we use this to make something better the next time? So that's kind of the way we operate.
Right. Turn it into an opportunity. And Erin, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, so definitely echo a lot of those similar challenges. I think one of the biggest ones that we faced is that sometimes there's just a lack of involvement from farmers in the market governance itself. So not necessarily being part of the boards or giving their input, even just coming to AGM meetings, those sort of things. It can be really hard. There's a lot of things to juggle and balance with life, but it's really important, as Catherine said earlier, like farmers markets are for farmers. So you need to make sure that you're being part of that, and you're kind of like working that into part of your business plan, is that you are attending those things and you are making sure that farmers markets are providing the space and the resources that you need, and that they're being the best place for you to to do your job. It's really important to have a variety of people on those governance boards, but farmers' voices are often underrepresented on those sorts of things. So just making sure that you're part of that community, that you're involved and really advocating for yourself and for other farms.
Fantastic. Thanks, Erin. I'm going to, I know we have another question here, but there's some coming into the Slido here. So I'm going to kind of pivot over there and ask a couple questions coming in. One of them specifically to Alex. What would you say are the top 2 factors that took you from smaller to a going concern?
Like in terms of attending more markets, is that kind of where you think they're coming from?
I think they mean like how, what helped you kind of make that, make that growth happen.
Yeah. I mean, in part, it's just time. Like we've been doing this since 1984. So lots of trial and error. And we didn't start off going to this many markets. We started going to 1 or 2, and it's kind of slowly grown. So I think like I mentioned, having those systems in place and lists, and once you've done it once or twice and have like 1 or 2 markets, a few seasons of that, it's kind of the same process, just with other people involved. So that's when the training piece comes in really important, because you need your staff. Like, of course, I can't personally attend all those markets, and I actually don't really leave the farm much anymore. I'm pretty on farm. So yeah, you need to have staff who are familiar with what your core messaging is, how you want your farm represented. They need to be knowledgeable about the product. So time and training, I would say, are the key factors.
That's great. That's really helpful. And one for when you're deciding to attend or leave a market, so when you add one or take one away, what are the major factors you look for to determine if it's a good fit for your wares and values? And this isn't targeted at anyone in specific. So if Erin wants to jump in here as well.
Sure. Yeah. For us, it's really just looking like, is it working for us? Does it make sense? For us to be able to go to it as well as go to the next market the next day, that we're set up. Are we going to, like have enough produce? Are we going to be able to meet the demand? Is the demand high enough? Or what can we do to sort of to make it work for us? So yeah, for us, it's just making sure that it kind of checks all of the boxes so that we are, we're able to give back to the community and provide them with a service of fresh fruits and vegetables, but also make sure that we're like financially sustainable and that we're not burning ourselves out.
Great. And a general question here about whether or not you sell your items online and what platforms have you found work best. Now we are tackling this in the new year. In January, we have a webinar specifically about selling online, but thought we'd also tackle it here because I know it's a very popular question.
Can start. We do sell online, sort of. We have a home delivery aspect of our business. So it's kind of like our take on a CSA. So people can order either for the whole season or 1 month at a time, as well as some add-ons of our baked goods and preserves. And we just do that through our website, which is hosted on Squarespace, and they have a built-in like e-commerce platform that we use. And it works pretty well for us. It's not perfect, but I like Squarespace as a host. I find it very easy to navigate. And it's been a great addition for sure.
We use WooCommerce through our website. It's just a plugin that's relatively easy to use, I found.
We don't currently sell online. We did during COVID, but it's not something that we currently have a real comfort level with. I think with the succession plan that we're working on right now with some of our kids, it may eventually happen. We sell our product through another business that does online sales. So we provide them with some product. So that's really the only way you can get our product online.
Okay, great. And with about 5 minutes left here, we'll head back to our questions of what's one piece of advice you would give to a farmer considering selling at farmers markets, and what do you wish someone had told you before you started? And maybe we'll start with you, Jenny.
Okay, so my biggest piece of advice is be true to yourself and your brand. Your customers expect and deserve the truth, no matter what you're selling. And something I think that is, I kind of knew going in, but when you become part of a market group, you are a team. You need to be a team in order to realize that success. But what most of us don't understand is how much time it takes to that you need to give in order to make that happen. So just go in with your eyes open, expect there to be more time than just your selling time at your table. You need to be able to get involved with the rest of your vendors and potentially your board in order to keep your market successful.
Perfect. Thanks. Who would like to go next?
I can for sure. So I think the biggest thing for me is realizing that like we don't need to do it all. We don't need to have when we're going to farmers markets, we don't need to have a table full of every single fruit and vegetable. We don't need to be that grocery store because there are going to be other vendors there who are doing that. And we can work in conjunction with each other to really focus on what we're doing well, what we can grow well, what we can produce well, what sells well for us, and really focus on that and let everyone else focus on that as well. And then we will have a well-rounded experience for everyone. So really just figuring out like what your customers want and what you can grow and produce and sell well and then just build on that.
I'm going to go a little more granular. I think if you've never attended a farmer's market, it's really helpful to take the time before you even are growing stuff to run through the whole day in your head and make a lot of notes and lists as you go. What time does the market start? How long does it take you to set up? I would recommend setting a trial booth up. Play around with how you want it to look. What supplies are you going to need? What about your prices? Cash box and float. Are you going to take debit? Like what payment methods? Promotional materials. How will you unload? Like it's kind of boring to think about, but if you just run through the whole day before you get to the market, your first time actually going will be so much more enjoyable and less stressful. And also maybe go visit a few markets, or if there's a specific market you want to attend, go there ahead of time, look at how the other vendors set up, kind of get some ideas for displays and supplies. Just really take the time to plan ahead, and then you can just enjoy being there once you get there. There's also lots of great resources, on Pinterest or Instagram of like market displays. So just be thoughtful about your displays and your experience and how you're going to do all the steps in between for the market.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Actually, here we have a bit of extra time, so I do have a few more questions, and if there are more questions that participants would like to add into the chat, feel free in the Slido, or if you're not using Slido, you can drop them in the chat if you're not sure how to use Slido. I know sometimes it can be hard to manage two screens. So one question, I think something that's common, it came up in our survey when we asked farmers doing direct to consumer, was how do you balance your work at going to the farmers market with the other farm responsibilities like going off farm and on farm, and how do you manage your time?
I could start. Definitely a work in progress. It's not easy, especially mid-season when everything's on the go. But I think back to, you can tell I'm a list girly. I love having lists and plans and systems, and I just think the more you can systematize and make it easy for yourself, so you don't have to like make a new list for every week, the easier it is. And also having a great team. Again, that training is very important, and we're at a point where we're looking into more like management level team members too, just to really give attention and focus to each area. But of course, that's going to depend on the size of your operation. But no perfect answer. So I'd love to hear from the others.
So we're pretty fortunate. I mean, we're not a terribly big farm, but we have enough people that we sort of we each take responsibility for an area. So I'm kind of the point person for markets, whereas my husband's the point person for doing the farm chores and making sure all of that happens. And communication is key. If I need help at the market, if it's a busy time of year, I have to make sure that I let them know that it's needed. And same as all the farm chores. If there's something going on that needs extra help, well, he has to communicate that quite clearly. And so, like, yeah, communication is the key, but having those point people and just making sure that you don't leave things to the last minute.
Having good childcare, that's number one. That's where we're going with. But yeah, no, just having a good team, having a good support system. I can't count how many times my mom has jumped in for babysitting, for both my brother and I. We joke all the time we should just have a farm daycare at this point. But just making sure that, yeah, you have kind of planned, like hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And things happen, and things are never going to always go perfectly or smoothly. It's just not the reality of life, and that's okay. You just have to kind of be prepared and make the best of it and enjoy what you're doing.
Great, thank you, Erin. Yeah, definitely childcare and rural childcare is a major challenge across Ontario. Um, we're curious too if there's any specific resources or programs that you tapped into that have helped you succeed at farmers markets, whether that's a funding program, people in your or experts or support system you've had in your community, industry resources or courses that you've taken. Any advice that you can help those on the call that maybe haven't had a chance to dive in too far into this yet or just getting started?
Well, of course, Farmers Markets Ontario is a great resource, and I think they mentioned like handouts and things that are available online. We also have found great value from working with our local tourism board, and they're often partnered or aware of markets in the area, and they do a lot of promotional activities, and they're just a really, really great resource. And then conferences, we always go to the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Conference every February. Super great resource, great way to network. There's a farmers market component as well as other things. And I've gone to some really valuable workshops there about farm marketing and promotions, and yeah, awesome resource.
Yeah, somewhat ditto to what Alex is saying. I think that's really important. We too always attend the conference. I mean, we also, with our local commodity groups, there's the Soil and Crop Improvement Association, there's other local boards, federations of agriculture that offer workshops, that offer conferences, and also there's some online training from time to time through different organizations. And I mean, if you can find the time, it's really beneficial. You might only pick up one good thing in an hour presentation, but if you do, it's really good to keep that there and just build on those things you can do. And talking to other markets, talking to other vendors. We have a manager who works hard to find things that work well to move our market forward. And so working as a team again, it's really important, both a team at home and a team at the market, just to keep it all moving forward.
I think, yeah, all of those things were things that I was thinking of as well. And I think, yeah, just visiting markets and getting a feel, getting ideas. I think just realizing that as many lists as you have. Like we have spreadsheets and lists and all of these things to keep track of everything and plan what's going in what vehicle and all of this stuff. But there's always more that we can do. There's always things that we can improve upon. I love going to farmers markets and just seeing like, oh, why did I never think about that for signage? That would be perfect. I could do that. Yeah, and bringing it home. So even if I just get a chance to travel and see another farmers market and get some ideas and just yeah, some new perspectives, I think is always a good thing. And yeah, this time of year, just getting together with other farmers, and whether it's just going out for lunch and talking, sometimes those people have the best ideas, and this time of year we usually have a little bit more time to be able to do those things.
Definitely, yes. As the snow falls, it makes things a little easier to connect. There is a question in Slido, although it's related to self-serve on a farm stand, which I don't know that everyone has here, but I think I might expand it more broadly to how could a producer keep track of sales or inventory, in general. I know you've talked a lot about lists. Do you use any kind of programs or that type of thing? And if you do happen to have a self-serve farm stand, you could speak to that directly, but I'm thinking of just more broadly, how do you keep track of your sales and your inventory for some of your direct sales options?
So really what we do is we sort of like track what we've sent to markets and then sort of take away what comes back. So we have a pretty good idea of how much a bin of beans will come back having sold for once it's put into liters and all of that stuff. And we know how many flats of strawberries we sent. So if we've sent 100 flats of strawberries and 3 flats have come back, we know we've sold 97. Ergo, we should have this amount of dollars in the cash box, and that sort of thing. And so the same thing goes for in the stores, just keeping an inventory of what we have, what we've sold, and all of those things. And then it's just keeping records of what we should send. Our records actually keep track of the weather, any special events, all of those things, so that we know like, oh, this festival is going on. We always catch extra traffic that week. And then we've sold out early in the past, so we should send some extra produce this week because that event is happening. So just keeping those records, and that just comes with time.
Same for us. We have like a record sheet, we call it, that we've put together with a list of all the items we have, and yeah, a column for what you came with, the price, what you sold it at. We do a lot of mix and match pricing or like 2-for pricing. So we try to keep track of like if that's if that's working, which items people seem to be pairing. And then same thing, what's left and therefore what we sold. And similarly, we have a column, or a space for comments about weather and events. And once you get that historical data of a few years, you can really make a lot of good inferences and come to know how much to send. Because the first time you ever go to a market, it's the same with us if we start a new one. It's kind of freaky. We have no idea how much stuff to sell, or send rather, because we don't know how busy it will be. So you just sort of have to make an educated guess and go from there. And yeah, weather does have a big impact. Of course, a lot of farmers markets are outdoors, so keep that in mind. If it's a rainy day, it might not be as busy, but we tend to be optimistic always. We don't typically adjust how much we send based on weather because it's so unpredictable. So have a lot of optimism.
Boy, I feel like my market is really easy. We keep track of our product basically through our Square program. And so we put the inventory in, and as it sells, we know what to bring. And again, we can leave, like my freezers stay at the market. They stay plugged in at the market, same as my stand-up coolers, they stay there. So I only have to replenish. I don't have to bring new product all the time. So yeah, I feel like I've really got it easy.
Right. Actually, that's great, Alex. There was one more Slido that came in related to your comments about price. So if everyone would be able to answer, how do you set the prices of your products at farmers markets? And I'll kind of elaborate on that to say, do you set different prices at different markets, like your whole kind of bundling you were talking about? Any tips there for folks trying to figure out how to price their products?
Yeah, we sell on a wholesale basis as well. So we're in contact with people, in that space. So we get a sense for like, here's our baseline wholesale prices, and then how do we mark that up on a retail basis. And yes, sometimes our prices do vary from location because market fees vary quite significantly by location. Some markets are pretty expensive to attend, whereas others, it's pretty reasonable. So we do have to account for that. We always do a little walk around too to see what other people are pricing at. And we find that, yeah, any sort of like mix and match deal or 2-for deals or volume ways to drive volume sales are helpful.
So we're a bit different. We usually, like our price is usually our price. We kind of have an idea of what has gone into the product, and we know that we have to cover our cost. So sometimes our prices are going to be more than the grocery store and that sort of thing. And we've accepted that, and our staff are well versed in why that is. We have a lot of costs to cover. We don't have loss leaders. We just don't. So our price is our price, and we just really focus on the quality, and making sure that, yeah, we're able to pay our employees well, that we're able to cover our costs, and that we're able to make ourselves financially sustainable.
Yeah, so for us too, I mean, we have to consider our cost of production, and then we have to consider, like for our eggs too, they go to a grading station. So there's the cost of getting things ready for market. Our prices stay fairly consistent. And if there are changes, I mean, customers will ask, but we've never yet had a customer say, oh, your prices are too high. Some of them will say, oh, how do you manage to keep them that low? We know that people shop at the market by choice. They're not shopping there for great deals. But I think we also have a responsibility to the public. We want to keep them coming to the market. And yeah, we do have a superior product that does cost more only because of volume. Like we don't have the volume that a grocery store would have. So we can't keep the prices as low. And they understand that. They don't want the food to disappear from their town. They want to be able to know that there is a place they can come to get their food, and still it's affordable, even though for some it's not affordable, but for the majority it is affordable to come to the market to shop. And so, yeah, like to say, the cost of production, the cost to get it to the market, those are the main factors.
Fantastic. Well, with that, I think we can wrap things up, but it was so fantastic. Thank you so much all for taking the time today from your busy businesses to be here with us. And we look forward, good luck on the next season, and I hope that all goes well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next, I will turn it over to Jeff O'Donnell, to share information on the Power of Foodland Ontario branding and marketing. And as always, if you can enter your questions into Slido while they're presenting, that would be fantastic. So I will read Jeff's bio here now. So Jeff O'Donnell joined the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness in 2007. Since 2011, he's been working as a team lead to support the delivery of Foodland Ontario, which is the province's key domestic marketing program to encourage consumers to identify, ask for, and purchase Ontario food first, Jeff provides team leadership in the planning and execution of communication and stakeholder relations strategies to support the economic development and competitiveness of Ontario's agri-food sector. Jeff has also been responsible for leading project teams during the implementation of many elements of the province's Local Food Act, such as multiple local food reports and aspirational goals for local food literacy, access, and broader public sector local food procurement. So thank you and welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Danielle. That's a very kind introduction. And you can see my screen? Is it up and
Not yet,
not
although
yet? Okay.
I'm seeing your face, not quite your screen.
How's that?
It is working.
Okay.
Yes, and if you
Awesome.
can put it in presentation mode.
It should be there. Let me try. Sorry.
That's all right. Should be over at slideshow, I believe.
There we go. How's that?
Okay, you're good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take it
Thank
away,
you.
Jeff.
Appreciate it. Yes, Jeff O'Donnell, team lead with the domestic market unit, and yes, we are responsible for delivering the Foodland Ontario program, which many, if you're not aware, is actually started in 1977. So we're getting close to its 50-year anniversary. So it's pretty humbling to work on the program and how long it's been around. So, thanks to Danielle and Krista for the invite to come to speak to you about the Foodland Ontario program. Hoping to, I know I'm between you and lunch, and I'm going to be showing you lots of visualization, nice, pretty pictures of food and recipes. So hopefully everyone will be very hungry at the end of this. But yeah, I want to walk you through kind of some of the consumer insights. Who is the principal grocery shopper? What motivates them to buy local? And then giving you kind of a quick overview of kind of the program itself, key elements of it, and then how you can partner with us and benefit from the program. So consumer insights, a lot of the work we do through the Foodland Ontario program is grounded through evidence-based and consumer research. So some of the key research we do have every 1 to 2 years we'll do an advertising awareness and tracking study. So this is really, we try to do this kind of post our annual advertising campaign. And this is really to test and understand the impact that the campaign's having on grocery shoppers or Ontarians here in the province. Another key pillar that we do, not as frequently, but every 4 to 5 years is kind of an industry best practice, is a usage and attitude study. So this really helps to assess what's motivating consumers and their buying patterns. And it helps us to establish some key consumer segments that I'll touch on in the next slide. But these two kind of pieces together really help to paint a picture in terms of who the consumer is, what motivates them, their purchasing patterns, and then we can more effectively target our key messaging and our marketing tactics through the Foodland Ontario program. And then a couple other pieces we do as well are jurisdictional scans, so what's happening elsewhere across the country or in the US with similar buy local programs, and are there newer novel things that we can bring to Ontario to strengthen our program, the spirit of continuous improvement. And then we also will do kind of more trade directed studies. So we have actually merchandising reps that go out into field and they can track things like share of shelf or, distribution of an Ontario product relative to imports. And then we will share that information with some of the provincial commodity associations and whatnot. So who are we trying to talk to? Who are the target audiences here in Ontario? So you see here, we have 6 segments that we've identified through our consumer research, and you'll see there's a wide spectrum here. So with local enthusiasts and traditionalists that we call them, they've kind of already drank the Kool-Aid and they're committed to buying local. They're already driven to buy local. So that's not a group we're always focused on because they're already, they're committed. On the far side, on the other side of the spectrum, you'll see budget conscious consumers. So they're entirely driven by price. And, that's their top motivator. And so that's, again, a group that we don't focus always on. But we find there's a sweet spot here with the value driven and convenience oriented subsets because they're on the fence. They're interested, but they're motivated by different attributes. And price could be one, but it could be freshness, safe food, healthfulness. So we try to focus on this group because they're the greatest opportunity to shift their purchasing patterns if we can hit them with the right messaging through our marketing tactics. So you'll see one of the nice things that we've seen coming out, and I was mentioning kind of in the last panel discussion, is that supporting kind of local businesses within the community, and that is one thing we've seen a nice shift in, particularly since the pandemic. A lot of consumers and Ontarians are reporting that they see buying local helps to support businesses in their local community, and it's a great way to support the province's economy going forward. And there's this increased or renewed interest in understanding where their food is coming from and buying local over imported. So what are factors that are kind of driving these different groups? So you can see kind of the aggregate here amongst the different segments, and you can see freshness is top of mind, pricing is important, but then also pieces like healthfulness, appearance, and locally grown or produced and so on. And then you can see across the board there that different groups are motivated more strongly by different attributes, right? So again, the goal is to deliver kind of that hitting home with what is important to them, and then reinforcing that through the messaging and the campaigns through the Food in Ontario program. Some of the key performance indicators or top line measures that we kind of track for the program. We've had strong brand recognition for many, many years now. Currently, we're at almost 85% of Ontarians recognize the logo, so that's great. And it's really on par with a lot of other major consumer packaged goods that you'll see in the retail environment. And we know that consumers have a consistent high propensity to they have an intent to purchase fresh Ontario food, and we know that any consumers that see a Food in Ontario campaign, like so advertising on here at radio tag or see a paid ad on social, they're more likely to buy local if they've seen a campaign, and also continue to have strong support just generally for the program and seeing it as a good thing that we're delivering. So what does the program actually entail? So we have basically, I have a colleague, there's 9 of us that work on the program, and it really is a fully integrated marketing program. And what I mean by that is that each of the elements you see here work together to contribute to the overall success of the program. So something like a simple recipe that we develop, and we have thousands that we've developed over time, but one recipe may be used several different ways in the program. So it could be used on a social post. We have TV spokespeople that go on local broadcast stations, so they could be showcasing that recipe to an audience on TV, or we may use it in our annual calendar as an example. So there's just different ways that we're using, assets. So again, working harmoniously together. And then there's a certain subset here when, you look at media advertising, social, digital, our public relations and public awareness. Those activities work really well together to create that awareness of the brand and that high recognition. And then, when a consumer understands what the logo is about and how it helps them to identify local product, when they're in store, we need to make sure that the logo is also visible as well. Or, if you're going to a market, because the worst thing you can do is a consumer goes and they're frustrated because they can't find, the local option. So then our client service and retail service activities work together to kind of reinforce that demand piece. In terms of advertising and social and digital, we do have an annual advertising campaign. We're currently in market, and you may hear or see some of the elements of that, but we do have radio tags that are part of that. Usually we do them in the morning or afternoons during high traffic times, people going to work or coming home from work. We had done print recently in September, October, where we put it through some Ontario community newspapers. So we've done that. Search engine optimization is really, we pay for certain keywords. And so when you're typing, in Google about Ontario food or local food, Food in Ontario is popping up, and helps us to drive traffic to our website. We do paid ads on social as well as our organic social. And you'll see below with the organic social, we'd like to brag like we are real leaders here in the Ontario public sector in terms of just the following we have on our channels and the volume of content that we put out. And if you don't already, I encourage you to follow us on those channels. Something more recent we've been doing this year too is with digital video. So we have like an online video that we have developed. So you'll see that on like streaming sites or websites or something like YouTube where it'll pop up. And one other new element that we're trying out this year as well is actually audio in store. So it's in grocery stores right now. So similar to like a radio tag, you'll hear a script read over the intercom in the grocery store. So at the point of purchase, reminding people to look for local when they're shopping. And we also developed and have new creative out, Reach for Fresh, Reach for Local. So that's relatively new since September. And then we also just rebuilt and relaunched the program website actually a week ago. So it's hot off the press. And I encourage you to go check out the website as well. We get well over 1 million unique visitors each year. And the top two reasons consumers are coming are for recipes and seasonality information through our availability guide. And then for industry partners, most likely coming for understand how to use the logo as well as accessing our point of sale materials, which I'll touch on shortly. And here's a video of our the online video. So food unites us all. A lot of you may have a copy already or are aware of this. This is kind of our big public awareness piece each year is our annual calendar. We do 350,000 English copies and 5,000 French. Largely, we distribute through retail grocery stores. We call on 1,200 stores across the province, but also, I know Catherine's on here, but we'll work with groups like Farmers Markets Ontario, or formerly Farm Fresh Ontario, now Agritourism Ontario as of Monday. But we also will work to do direct shipments out to farmers markets and on-farm markets as well, as an important resource. And lots of good recipes every year in this one. So kind of getting into client services, how can you benefit from using the logo? We currently have already over 1,700 businesses, organizations using the logo, either on packaging, labels, website, social, other marketing materials. The benefits, again, really strong brand recognition. 85% of Ontarians recognize the logo, so it's a great way to help consumers identify Ontario food. The strongest driver for consumers to purchase food is their ability to find it. Again, it's consumers not more. You can't be more frustrated if you're looking for something you can't find it. So obviously, again, usage of our logo helps consumers to easily identify and choose the local option when shopping for groceries. And when you sign up and become a partner of the program, we offer up lots of great free merchandising and marketing materials, and I'll touch on that in the next couple slides. But how do you apply to use the logo? I encourage you to visit our website. We have a very handy kind of step-by-step guide, but as a business or organization, we ask that you meet our program definitions for Ontario food products, and you can find those on the website. And some of them are very straightforward. Fruit or vegetable must be grown in Ontario, but we do have a set of 17, and some are a little bit more complex than others. So we have like for further processed foods, there's certain content thresholds and stuff. But they were all developed in conjunction with the commodity associations and then tested with consumers. So we do feel they're very robust and very well respected within the industry and by consumers. So anyway, if you get through that step, basically we ask you to enter into a licensing agreement with us. It's a very short agreement. You sign it, we sign it, and then we'll send you back the agreement content, we'll send you a brand standards guide and our logo artwork. So then you can use it, as you deem fit in terms of your marketing and promotion. And basically, then we'll give you a logo number as well. And for the logo number, basically, it gives you access to ordering point of sale materials and other information resources from us. So here's just a few examples here, but we're talking about posters, base wrap, price cards, and all that good stuff. And we actually have a handy merchandising catalog on our website, but this again gives you a sense of all the various generic items that we make available for all retail channels, including farmers markets and non-farm markets. And again, once you become a partner with us, you go online, you put in your logo number that we've given you, and then you can go into the catalog and start ordering things as you deem fit. And again, it's all free. There's no cost to ordering. One of the other important things we find too with the sector, just generally, and as a lot of success we attribute to the program, is all the value-added collaboration in the work that we do with our industry association. So, we do a lot of work with the 40 plus commodity association. So apple growers, egg farmers, obviously Farmers Markets Ontario is a very important partner with us as well. And so, and then kind of key times of the year that we try to celebrate all that goodness. Local Food Week under the Local Food Act was established. And so that's the first Monday in June where we try to do a bunch of celebrations. And then Ontario Agriculture Week is the Monday leading up to Thanksgiving. It's another time of year we try to put the spotlight on Ontario growers and the sector and the importance of it. And obviously other times of the year throughout the year as well. But those are kind of two pinnacle kind of times. So I wanted to kind of end on kind of a happy note here. And so one of the things we've been doing with social is trying to move from more static to dynamic content and doing more videos as well, not only of profiling clients that are using our logo on their packaging or their labels or whatnot, but just, generally profiling the importance of local growers and markets and stuff. So I'm going to play this video and then after we can take some questions.
We grow, so the greenhouse vegetables, tomatoes, English cucumbers, pickling cucumbers, mini snack cucumbers, 55 varieties of hot peppers, eggplant, heirloom tomatoes, spinach, lettuce, and Swiss chard. So that's all inside, and then we have the land outside. We have less than 3 acres, and we're a 3-generation farm. So there's my mom and dad, my wife and myself, and my eldest son.
So yeah, so that was Lakeview Gardens, which is located up by Innisfil. Oop, my bad. All right, so yeah, so just generally too, if you have any questions or want to contact, that's my information there. And another colleague, Gigi Cornell, she's our client service officer, and she's very helpful and excellent as well. So yeah, it's a kind of a quick overview, but happy to field any questions. So.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We do have a few questions for you here.
Okay.
I guess we'll start with, are the Foodland Ontario market, sorry, are the Foodland Ontario materials different for my farm stand versus a farmer's market?
So we do have, so those generic materials that I shared with you are available to all markets and on-farm markets. So those are more general. If we do develop anything specific, we do customize for grocery banners just because their channel strips are different sizes or there's a certain common look and feel for, like even between like a no frills versus a law or Zayres, right? Or a Metro versus a Food Basic. So we do customize for those channels, but you'll see there's generic materials like the balloons and the posters and the price cards are all very generic. So, easily used by markets and on-farm markets.
Perfect. And how can I get more Foodland Ontario marketing materials at our market?
So if you're an existing partner, so again, you have to apply to use the logo. And so, there's that process that you go through where you have to demonstrate you're meeting our definition. So again, if you're doing fresh produce, it's pretty straightforward. If you have something that's like a more value added product, you might have to, advise that you're meeting, it's an 80% threshold for those products. So we'd maybe ask to see your ingredient deck, and we would say, where are you sourcing, if you're doing chicken pot pie, where are you sourcing your chicken, where are you sourcing your carrots, and sometimes you grow them on your own farm, or you source them from a partner farm. So we'll ask some of those questions just to get a sense that you are buying locally and using local ingredients. And then once you're approved, we enter into a licensing agreement. You get your logo number. So that's kind of the first step. And once you have that logo number, you can go into our catalog and basically start ordering the different items that you feel that you need. Sometimes we deal directly with like managers of markets, but also individual vendors that are at markets or may have their own on-farm market as well.
Okay,
Free of
fantastic.
charge. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And then to follow up on not a question, but thank you to Foodland for the no-cost resources that you provide to markets and growers. And in the event that it's not already answered, are there any costs to memberships in brackets beef and chicken?
No, there's no cost to play and be a partner with Foodland Ontario. We have, I think somebody mentioned, maybe it was you, Danielle, that mentioned like there's 200 plus commodities right here in the province, and we have 40 plus commodity associations or organizations that we try to partner with. So, something like the calendar you see, we try to make sure that everyone's reflected in that, right? And you see all the industry association logos at the back of it. So, it's kind of that equity piece when we're doing promotion. We try to cover everyone. But again, when we work at an individual level, if you partner with us, there's no cost to play, and where there's room for everyone at the local food table, we often say, and we try to bring the happiness. And one of the other things we've been trying to do too, again with some of our partners, is that we've gone out and tried to go visit a farm or visit the farm, do a bit of an interview, find out. We were up at Tim Berry, right? Like Berry's a Berry Hill Farms. I think Alex was, I'm pretty sure Gigi's been out to Thames, River Melon. Like we've gone out and visited and tried to, we're trying to tell that local story. And somebody mentioned earlier, some people are happy to find the local product at the grocery store. That's great, right? That's a common way people buy groceries, but there's also people want to understand the story behind the food or the people behind the food, right? So we're trying to do a little bit of that more with, on our social channels and stuff. And we're always proud to do that because we have a pretty strong following on our channels as well, right? Facebook and Instagram and so on. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have today, but thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us and for sharing everything about Foodland Ontario. I'm sure you'll have some people reaching out to you to get that license set up.
Increased logo agreements. There you go. So yeah,
Yes,
anyways,
there we
thanks,
go.
Daniel. Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you, Jeff.
everyone.
All right, fantastic. So thanks for the great overview, Jeff. Next, I'd like to take some time to share some resources and programs that may be of interest to you. Jessica will be sharing the links to resources and programs in the chat as we go. These links will also be shared with everyone following the workshop. Just before we dive in, I wanted to take a moment to share the post-workshop survey. If you could please take 2 minutes to complete our short survey, it will help us inform our future sessions. And Jessica has just placed that in the chat for us. Okay, so getting right into resources and funding opportunities. So first off, we'd encourage you to consult your local Community Futures Development Corporation, your Small Business Enterprise Center, your Economic Development Office, and of course, the commodity and agricultural organizations. Certainly Farmers Markets Ontario is an excellent resource for all things farmers markets. There's also the Farmers Markets Ontario Vendor Certification course, which is $40 with 3 modules, including marketing and promotion for vendors, merchandising and displays, and best practices and winning strategies. And Jessica's pasted that in the chat for us as well. Some additional resources from Farmers Markets Ontario. They have great displays for vendors, legible color combinations for signs, the benefits of selling at a farmer's market, checklists for market supplies for vendors, and a checklist on how to shine at the market. So if you're looking for some advice, tips, and tricks, they have some great resources for you on how, especially on the marketing side, how to get your products noticed. And as for funding opportunities, there's the Fair Finance Fund. It's a nonprofit social finance fund dedicated to providing loans and mentorship services to local food and farm enterprises that value strong local food systems, local economies, and a healthy planet. There are loans from $20,000 up to $200,000 for a 5-year term, and you also receive 10 hours of mentorship and assistance. There's also several Government of Ontario funding opportunities. There's the Growing Future Opportunities Initiative, the Ontario Craft Cider Marketing Fund and Small Cidery Program, the Dairy Processing Modernization Initiative, Futurepreneur Canada, and Labor Force Management Strategies Initiative. So all of these links will be available to you, and that will give you more information about the current intake windows for those funding programs. And with that, we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate the support of our commodity partner and partner organizations. And thank you so much to Farmers Markets Ontario. That was instrumental in putting this workshop together. We hope it was useful to you. We'd also encourage you to join our free virtual upcoming workshops following this one. So next Thursday, we have Selling to Restaurants and Institutions on December 12th. And in the new year, we'll be jumping right in on January 9th with our Selling Online and Leveraging Social Media Platforms that we are sure will be a very popular session. And January 16th will be our Labeling and Attributes one, where we're talking about the different types of attributes for your local products, as well as labeling requirements and that type of thing. So we encourage you to go to ofa.on.ca/cultivating local, and you'll learn more about those resources. And once again, I encourage you to complete the short post-workshop survey so we can use what we learned to inform the other 6 upcoming workshops in this series. Once again, Jessica has pasted the link to the survey in the chat, and we will share it with you via email after today's session as well. So with that, I'd like to thank our partners and OFA members for supporting these workshops. Thank you to all of our speakers, panelists, and attendees for participating today. Have a great day, everybody.